Disturbing Stories from a Child Psychiatrist, Part 2. Case 2. I first saw Jason when he was 6 years old. He came from an amazing home, from what I could tell. Mom was a teacher, and Dad an engineer. They seemed kind and loving, and had already raised 2 polite, well-adjusted kids. Then they had Jason. I see a lot of kids with aggression. Usually it is impulsive, in the moment, emotional dysregulation leading to violent acting out of some sort. Not so with Jason. He was, for lack of a better term, calculating. For example, this is the incident that led the parents to seek professional help. On a Thursday afternoon, his 3YO sister Amy grabbed one of the toys he was playing with and refused to give it back. Well, he didn't react at the time. He waited until that Saturday to exact revenge, as it was the first opportunity he was alone with his sister unsupervised. They were in the front yard playing when Mom ran inside to grab her phone. She was only gone about 30 seconds, but when she came back, Amy was unconscious in the driveway, bleeding from a wound in her head. Jason standing over her with a tricycle in his hands. He had smashed her over the head with a tricycle. On the way to the emergency room, Mom frantically asked him why he had done this. He very calmly and matter-of-factly replied, "She took my Batman when we were at Nana's. Batman is mine." Now, I get parents in my office all day long who tell me how bad their kid is. How he was just born to be oppositional and destructive, despite all their wonderful parenting. 99 times out of 100, that is weapons-grade bullshit. Without realizing it, of course, the parents or teachers are doing something to reinforce the kid's behavior. Or we find out there has been abuse or neglect or an underlying medical issue, etc. There is almost always a reason the kid is bad. Jason was the first child I ever treated who I thought was actually just born that way. He was born entirely without the capacity for empathy. That scares me because it means you can do absolutely everything right as a parent and still end up with a future serial killer for a child. You may think I'm being dramatic, but let me tell you a bit more about Jason. When he was 5 years old, he spent the weekend at Grandma's house. She was your typical sweet little old lady, weighing in at about 95 pounds. She baked a batch of sugar-free cookies for the weekend with her grandson and planned some wholesome activities like puzzles and coloring. The first day went pretty well until Jason tasted one of the cookies she made after dinner. He spit it out onto the floor, looked Grandma intensely in the eyes and said, "I'm going to cut your face off." She was quite shaken by this and put him to bed early in the guest room. That night, at 3:30 a.m., Grandma suddenly awoke to the sound of breathing close to her ear. When she opened her eyes, Jason was kneeling beside her in bed, watching her sleep, a blank expression on his face. Startled and disoriented, she tried to get up quickly and tumbled onto the floor. She realized she couldn't stand up, so she called out to Jason to go grab the phone. She looked up helplessly as he peered down at her from atop the bed. He didn't say a word and didn't go for help, even as she started to cry and beg. After a few minutes of watching her, he stood up and walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. Grandma lay there in pain for the rest of the night and half of the following day. Finally, Jason's mom came by the house to check on him around noon. She walked in to find Jason sitting in front of the TV with a bowl of cereal. She could hear whimpering coming from the bedroom. Grandma was taken to the ER with a broken hip. When asked why he didn't get the phone for Grandma, he answered, "I don't like her. Her cookies taste like sand." Jason was not invited back for another sleepover. There are more examples of disturbing things Jason did, but they all involve animals. And to be honest, I can't stomach thinking about it, let alone retelling it. Suffice it to say, several lizards, numerous insects, one hamster, and one cat met a very unpleasant demise at the hands of Jason. And that's just the ones we know about. He has been in intensive therapy for the past 5 years, but it has not seemed to make a difference. If anything, I'm afraid it may be making him even more dangerous. He is very intelligent, and he's learning to feign the normal human reactions and emotions he is supposed to have. He is getting better at hiding the parts of himself that make other people uneasy. He's becoming a very charming little sociopath. Even his mom thinks he's getting better and outgrowing his old habits. But he still confides in me that deep down, he feels nothing. Watching another human or animal suffer is fascinating to him, and it's the only thing that gives him a small thrill, while the rest of life is utterly numb and boring. He tells me he has stopped killing animals, but I don't believe it for a second. I try to have hope for all of my patients, but deep down, I truly think he will move on to killing humans someday. And absolutely no one will see it coming. I guess, except me.